it's not just that, oh, I can't remember anything or I lose track of time. It's like, no, I have trouble with remembering things that are close to events in time, or reproducing time, or estimating how long something's going to take in a period of time. There's all these different depths to the idea of struggling with time measurement.
Don't expect that you're just magically going to get good at time blindness, because that isn't a thing.
Hello, everyone. I am so excited today to be bringing you a very action-packed, time-focused episode with Sarah, who has done an amazing job of finding us these 3 papers. So we're going to be going through them. And my job is just going to be to ask her all of the questions and make sure that everything, is kind of understood at the end, and we'll kind of wrap it all up together. But there's a banana. There's proprioception. It's all going to be in here.
It's all happening.
Exactly. So the first thing that we want to talk about then, if we're talking about time blindness, is what is it? What is time blindness? You might have heard it with ADHD. For some of you, this might be the first time you've heard of it. I didn't hear about it until after I was diagnosed. If that's you, strap in. This is going to be exciting. And we're going to start by just talking a little bit about what it is. So the first paper is called Living in the Fast Lane, Evidence for a Global Perceptual Timing Deficit. It was from Frontiers in Human Neuroscience, and they wanted to test perceptual timing differences in children with ADHD using a series of time-related tasks. So Sarah, do you want to start us off by just explaining what are perceptual timing deficits? The deficit word was used, the timing word was used, but what does that actually mean?
Sure. So there's sort of different dimensions that are involved in time blindness. And so rather than just evaluating the whole construct with one measure, they've very kindly separated it out into parts. So we'll talk about that a lot in this paper. Pretty much their measures are different measures of time blindness. So I'll just get right into that. So first we've got like time discrimination. And so that is sort of like being able to tell that one segment of time was larger or shorter than another. There's sort of time estimation and production or reproduction, which means like being able to estimate how much time has passed. Or sort of being able to like reproduce an interval of time. So like basically having to press a button a minute after an alarm was started or something like this. So, time blindness, it's like, what is time? How long? How long was that time?
How is time?
Are these 2 times the same?
Well, let's do this, what we always like to do, which is provide examples for people. So if we're thinking about time discrimination, which 2 stimuli lasted longer? That could be really simple, putting you in a room, you're watching something, you don't have access to a clock or anything, and they say, hey, did this activity last longer than this other activity? Which of your children yelling lasted longer, if you've got a
was this commercial longer than this commercial?
Exactly. Then time estimation and production is, okay, how long do you think this is going to take? And that's a great example of if you've ever been at work and they've said, hey, how long do you think this is going to take? And you've said, and just kind of thrown out a number. That's because you struggle with time estimation. And then the last one is time reproduction. So that is reproducing the duration of previously presented stimuli. So would that be kind of looking at, okay, if this was a 3 minutes, like if it took someone else 3 minutes to boil an egg, how long is it going to take you to do it? Like that kind of thing, but you have no time.
I'm trying to think of a work scenario like you.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I've got a great one. You're asked to present in a meeting and you don't have the time on you. Like the clock is behind you, you can't see it. and this may or may not be a personal example, and you're asked to present in a meeting for a couple of minutes and you don't know how long a couple of minutes is. So you talk too fast and you get it all out, or you talk too slow and you get distracted. That's different. What do you think about that example, Sarah?
Yes, I was also thinking about something like meeting oriented and like having maybe previously even timed yourself doing it, but then being unable to replicate that in the moment.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I always rushed my speeches whenever I had to do that for that reason. I would find myself kind of going way too fast because I didn't know how to estimate time and I didn't want to go too long.
Mhm.
So I think we've given the listeners a reasonable good idea about time. Hopefully you guys are coming with us on this journey now. So that's what they were estimating, and they were estimating it in all males, because why not? Ages 8 to 13 years. So all
Mhm.
boys, more accurately. And in Germany. So was there anything else about the methods that you wanted to reference, Sarah?
Yes, this is a longitudinal study. So, over a
Mm-hmm.
period of 5 years, they tested
Mm-hmm.
this sample 3 different times, and that the ADHD diagnosis was assessed by an experienced senior child and adolescent psychiatrist. And it's so funny because I think the way that the punctuation is, I was just like, what
Yeah.
is a senior child? Um, what is an
I saw your
adolescent
messages about
psychiatrist? Like, there's a 13-year-old psychiatrist out there somewhere. Like, wow.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I thought that was pretty funny.
this is how I like remember bits. I
Mhm, mhm.
make really
Exactly.
silly notes.
Okay, so then what they did was they went through these different tests. So we talked about what we've
Mm.
done. What did they find, Sarah, in this one?
So essentially, they were just called in and then
Mhm.
asked to do a series of tasks that
Yeah.
were designed to measure those different aspects of the time.
Mhm.
So the time
Mhm.
discrimination task. Essentially, they were shown an image and then they had to decide afterwards which image was being shown for a longer period of time.
Okay. Okay.
And so that's how they were measuring the time discrimination.
Interesting. Okay. Mhm. So what did they find? Because I think we should probably skip to the bit where they found something.
Well, I don't think this is going to come as much of a shock, but obviously found in this study that the children with ADHD showed significant impairment in all timing tasks compared to
Mhm.
the controlled.
Mhm.
Um, there were larger absolute errors, more variability. So,
Mhm.
like, it was just all over the place.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
was, yeah, there was no real consistency.
Mhm.
Also tells
Mhm.
you that people with ADHD have a very wide range of issues with time.
Yeah, it is crazy when we discussed all those examples, just like, yeah, no, they are all relatable. We could have had all of those particular struggles. Like I definitely feel like I could have had any of those struggles.
Yeah, definitely. They also
Mhm.
did like a digit span task in here
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
measure the working memory. That's just sort of
Mhm.
like being able to replicate a list that was provided to you.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
working
Yeah.
memory deficits were also seen here,
Mhm.
which makes sense because there's a big
Yeah.
theory basically about how working memory and time blindness are actually related, sort of
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah. Sorry, when you say that, I'm just reminded about how much executive functioning research we have to get through. I'm like, will the audience come with us? Will you guys come with us on that journey? I hope so. Yeah, there's so much to it. But yeah, no, 100%. And so what did they say? We went in thinking we would find these issues with time. We we confirmed that we
Found
do find these
them.
issues with time. Yep, found them. Great to know. What were they sort of thinking that this added to the literature?
Yeah, they also were looking at whether or not medication, so in this case they tested
Mm-hmm.
methylphenidate, would
Mm-hmm.
improve the timing
Mm-hmm.
performance.
Yeah.
In this study, there was no significant improvement,
Mm-hmm.
um, but that's just this one tiny study.
Yeah.
So the end of the paper is talking a lot about the relationship between
Mm-hmm.
working memory and
Mm-hmm.
time perception.
Mm-hmm.
This paper is also from 2017. So I
Yeah,
wouldn't
it
even
has to be
consider it
said,
super
yeah.
novel at this point.
Yeah.
It might be one of the earlier studies that posited working memory and time blindness being connected.
Yeah.
The other ones are newer.
It really just goes to show like how recent this conversation
Fast.
is, that this is
Yeah.
that this is happening. But yeah, 100%.
Life in
Okay.
the fast lane. You weren't joking.
That was the title for those of you who missed that part. Okay, so we now get from this paper that this is a thing. You know, this is a thing, 2017, kind of this is what it is. Let's talk about some slightly newer papers. Hey, you listening to this podcast. If you like what we do and you want to hear more of it, there is one way to make sure that that happens. Please go ahead, subscribe, and leave a 5-star review. We have been told 5-star reviews can help us to get seen by more people, which means more people are going to learn about ADHD strategies.
Just press the button. Just give us a 5-star review.
So do you want to talk about the monkey or do you want to talk about proprioception first? Everyone's like, the monkey, tell us about the monkey.
Yes, we should talk about the monkey. And then we can get to prospective memory.
Yes, prospective memory. Exactly.
Yeah, so let's do the banana nab.
Yeah, from Stanford 2023. Not quite hot off the press, but pretty close.
Super
you
cool,
just said,
anyway.
Yeah, your notes are just, this paper is incredible.
Yeah, it was a much easier read than some of these other papers that we do because it's essentially it's somebody's college project and they were just trying to put together like a really neat digital tool. So it reads like a lab report.
Yeah.
Not a thesis. And so yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
There were pictures. I was able to find this tool and download it.
Of course you did.
Cool.
Of course Sarah did. Yeah.
I'll put the link in the description.
Yes, please do. So tell us about the monkey. Like, what was it? Yeah, I guess, okay, first of all, let me take a step back. What is the point of the monkey? What is it for?
So basically, they wanted to visualize the passing of time to help fight against time blindness.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
it.
Very, very cool.
So just like most timer tools, it's a plugin. You download it on the browser. It pops up on the screen. You start it.
Yeah.
And then the monkey climbs the tree. And then when your timer goes off, it like screams at you. Very effective, very scary.
Yeah. So you're watching the monkey climb the tree while you're doing the task.
Yeah. And it stays sort of on screen unless you navigate away, which is a challenge for most of these timer tools, just FYI.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Any developers out there?
Well, it's tricky because you are competing with that timer. You know, there's that visual timer where you turn the timer. It's like a physical thing. And you can see the time passing. Like the block of red or yellow or whatever color you've chosen of time is getting smaller and smaller. And the monkey climbing the tree is sort of a vertical version of that representation, which is interesting. I mean, it's very interesting.
It was so cute.
And cute, important as well. I mean, to be fair, we have had the makers of Llama Life on here, which I argue has a very similar benefit. Time, cute time, things combined. But I guess when we're talking about this then, did it work? Like what did it help? Because we were looking at new ways of visualizing time passing, combating time blindness. Was it combating time blindness?
So they did actually test it with 6 students, which I thought was very cute. Some users found the visualization helpful. Some people found it helpful that it like didn't have the time, the numbers, sort of like it allowed them to ignore that aspect. But overall, only like 50% of the participants improved their score from the first trial to the second trial. The way that they measured improvement might be a limitation.
Yeah. How did they measure it?
So, okay. So they sat these people down and had them write a writing sample, and then their readability score was analyzed. And then if the readability score improved with the use of this, then they counted that as
So what you're saying is you only
helping.
have good time blindness if you also have good handwriting?
Yeah, I think that definitely the testing of this could have been done differently.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree.
But
I
I
think
would
that makes sense.
imagine, I would imagine that these people didn't have lots of psych study design courses in their tech degree from Stanford.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes
Um,
sense.
yeah.
Interesting.
So all in all, we can't be experts at everything.
No, and I think it's very cool. And I think it really does speak to this idea that this is a new thing. This is happening more and more with ADHD. More people know about time blindness. I mean, 2017, apparently, this was a new concept. People didn't know about time blindness. Now people know about it more and more. And they're also amazingly wanting to support, wanting to help, wanting to come up with apps. I think it's just amazing. And I hope that more people do that and we have more things. I will say, just for the record, because it does come up a lot, people often ask me, what is the best app for time blindness, for ADHD, for everything like that? And, it's not the app specifically. It's more about the fact that there's a process for ADHD, about understanding how your brain works, why you're struggling with time blindness, all the different elements of time blindness that we talked about in that first section. And then does this app fit that process? So, for example, a banana nap sounds really cool, but maybe it's not going to be helpful for working memory if it's going to be really hard for you to remember to turn it on. There's a whole bunch of different systems involved in there. And if you want any information on how to build a calendar system, any kind of system that is going to work for your ADHD that could, say, incorporate something like Banana Nab, just message me system on Instagram. You can find me at unconventional organization with an S and message me system, and I'll send you some information to help you with that. Because I think that's something that's a question I probably get more than a lot of other questions.
I think that makes a lot of sense. We're always looking for ways to get our time back. One way we used to say it is, what's the best app for ADHD? The one that you're going to use.
100%.
Mic drop.
100%.
Yeah.
The best app for ADHD is the one you're going to use. It's more important than anything. And I guess it's also, maybe to kind of add to that is what's the best app for ADHD? It's the one you're already using, because sometimes people will say, oh, well, I'd love to use Notion. I just have to get it sorted. And it's like, okay, maybe we start with the one that you're actually going to use, not add executive functioning tasks onto a lack of executive functioning tasks to help you do that. Just as an aside. Should we go to the third article, Sarah?
Yes. So this one is another one that ties time blindness in with the working memory aspect. So we're at it again.
And I feel like I said it wrong because I think I said proprioception. So I apologize for that.
That's okay.
So this paper is called Event and Time Triggered Remembering: The Impact of ADHD on Prospective Memory Performance in Children. It's from the Journal of Experimental Child Psychology. And it's actually a bit of an older paper, but it's one that we wanted to look at because, similar to the other one from 2017, it has a bit of it explains things a little bit more, which is very helpful.
It is canon.
Yes, it's canon. It's one of those ones that made it to the top of the research pile over time. And we want to include those because I think they're really important, because you never know what's going to kind of make its way through. So the study aimed to investigate prospective memory in children with and without ADHD, and it focused on two types of prospective memory. The first was event-based prospective memory, triggered by external cues, and I'll give an example in a second. And the second was time-based prospective memory, triggered by the passage of time. So triggered by external cues. Sarah, do you want to give us an example of that before we use the example they gave? Because I don't think a fishing game with a virtual cat is really going to make it.
Yeah, definitely not. So first off, prospective memory is remembering to remember. Okay. So an event-based prospective
Relatable.
memory trigger. Yeah, I mean, so like event-based would be every time I get home, my keys go on top of the CD case on the third bookshelf in my house. So every time I get home, I always remember that my keys go in this one very specific spot. Do they go on the shelf above it? No, absolutely not. They go on this one shelf. And that is event-based when I walk in my door.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's a great example. And if you don't have one specific space that you put things, I highly recommend that you find one. It doesn't have to be the most perfect space, but just something that your long-term memory can kind of hold on to a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely not aesthetic, but it works.
Well,
and I remember.
You said CD case, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
You have a CD case? I didn't know this was there. Oh, that just took me back to the 2000s. Shout out to the CDs. Okay.
Shudder.
So then we have time-based prospective memory. This one is triggered by the passage of time. So can you give us an example of that one, Sarah?
Yeah, this one is easy. This one is like, it's 12 o'clock, so it's lunchtime.
Yeah, perfect. That's excellent. It's 12 o'clock, so it's lunchtime. It's 4 o'clock, so you should stop working, but you didn't. All those kinds of things. So they wanted to look at the difference then, the relationship between our ability to estimate time and our ability to perform this prospective memory activity with and without ADHD. So they asked 69 children aged 8 to 13. So what did they find? Like, how did they do this? Yeah. How did they do this? Because they had like Cyber Cruiser, Light Bulb Game, Little Fisherman. It was all happening.
Video games.
Video games.
Yeah, we can go into each game.
They definitely did them as in like, hey guys, you should come and do this really fun, exercise. It's going to be great. You're going to play video games. I can imagine, as somebody who had to recruit, I can imagine the recruitment notice already. Play video games for time and money. Well, not that much money.
So the first one is the Little Fisherman game. And this was the event-based prospective memory task. Okay. So basically, like, this is a game where the kids see a cat and a fisherman on a boat. And basically, they need to catch as many fish as possible.
Okay.
But they also need to remember to, like, feed the cat, at specific intervals. Every time a particular target fish appears on the screen, they have to feed the cat. And so, do they do it? We'll have to find out.
Dun, dun, dun. What else did they do?
We also have the Cyber Cruiser 2. It's a time-based task.
I love that it's 2. I wonder about 1. Can't help but wonder.
It looks like they're just driving around and then have to, like, remember to refuel the tank. Like, maybe after probably after a certain amount of time, like, the tank runs out and they have to refuel it. A restriction on refueling is imposed to ensure that they continue to monitor the gauge instead of refilling every few seconds. So
so they couldn't refuel all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, like, that's just a strategy, but fine.
That's just driving
I guess you're not supposed to check your email like every second, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's quite funny though, because it's called Cyber Cruiser 2 and it's like driving and filling up your tank.
So boring.
I definitely vote for the first one.
Yeah. Well, the last one also doesn't sound exciting. It's the light bulb game. And basically, they just look at a picture of a light bulb on the screen and it stays like on the screen for 17 seconds. And then the children have to guess how long, the children have to turn the light bulb back on and leave it on for exactly the same amount of time, basically trying to reproduce that time interval that they had just watched on screen.
Yeah, it sounds riveting.
Like, let's watch paint dry. Guys.
I love the names, but I definitely think the first one was the best one.
Yeah, 100%. I would sign my kid up for that one, for the fisherman task.
For the fisherman task.
It actually kind of just sounds like Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I was thinking that, or Stardew Valley. It just sounds like we're playing Stardew Valley. Yeah.
So calm.
So what did they find? I think I know based on our reactions to some of these tests, but what did they find, Sarah?
In terms of their performance, the children with ADHD did worse on both the event-based and the time-based tasks. There were also more errors in the time reproduction task, especially the longer durations.
Okay, and can we just remind ourselves?
Sense.
Yeah. So when we say they did worse on the event-based and so which ones did they do the worst on?
It doesn't say which one they did the worst on, but they did poorly in all of them.
All of them.
In all three trials, different trials, they did worse than
cruiser,
controls.
Light bulb, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they were looking for all the things that they already know that we do poor on, but it's probably, like we said, this is like a canon establishing article. They probably were like, okay, and this is the last time I'm going to tell you.
And it's true. They did it. We had to go all the way back to 2014. Okay, so they did worse on all of the different tests. Yeah. And they also had the parent-reported data to assess their daily prospective memory performance. What did the parent-reported data find?
So when the parents reported the prospective memory difficulties, it was correlated with like poorer time-based performance and greater ADHD symptom severity, which means that the parents were able to register these difficulties when they impacted time and ADHD symptoms. So like externalizing factors, not like every time my child walks through this door, they don't remember to do this. The parent is noticing every day at 5 o'clock, I come in and I see my kids' shoes on the floor and I don't know why they don't remember to put them, because they're not.
Yeah. That's the kind of thing they remembered. Yeah. Or they remembered to report.
Honestly, I think that the parent, I didn't even mention the parent reports earlier because I understand why they're here, right? These are children, actually. But I mean, based on what we've talked about with parent reports, and I just didn't.
And with
bring
ADHD as well, like parents having ADHD, we know it's genetic. So remembering that your kids remembering is difficult. Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
So this was essentially the paper that found, again, similar to the first one we discussed, that we with ADHD, at least as children, and more research came out to show the same thing is true with adults as well. We struggle with time. We struggle with time. We struggle with, anything to do with time, with remembering things to do with time. All of those kinds of things are a struggle for us. And I think it's really important to know that and know how complex it is, like how many different things it relates to. You know what I mean, Sarah?
Yeah, definitely. Like even when we talk about the difference between prospective memory and working memory, like those are already different categories. Yeah. And so, it's just so complex, but it's so good to be able to come in here and be like, yeah, no, time-based is just like, it's this time and it means you do this thing. Sometimes this literature doesn't, it doesn't always sound accessible, but it actually makes sense.
Yeah, it can be frustrating, but it's good to know. It's like, it's not just that oh, I can't remember anything or I lose track of time. It's like, no, I have trouble with remembering things that are close to events in time or reproducing time or estimating how long something's going to take in a period of time. There's all these different depths to the idea of struggling with time measurement. And we didn't talk about it in this episode, but there was another paper actually that looked at time and found that maybe we're working a bit faster. Somebody said that might be one of the reasons. Some research said it could be that our time measurement is going slightly faster than people who don't have ADHD. So there's all this depth to time and how it works. And it doesn't necessarily help in terms of we still struggle with time. You're still going to forget to take your shoes off at the door, or you're still going to forget to, grab that thing when you get back, all of those different things, or how long does it take to bake a cake? You have to have a timer. And if you don't, then you're going to burn the cake. And even if you do, you might, all of those kinds of things can be really frustrating. But at least now we know what it is. We're not just, I think sometimes it can feel crazy. I mean, I know a lot of people who've gotten, this is similar to the dementia conversation. It's like people who have gotten very, very anxious about what is going on in their brain, and they've had to go to the doctor and get tested for a whole variety of things because they didn't know that they struggled with time in this way.
Yeah, I mean, they use the words time perception. And I love that because it really highlights that 30 seconds for me and 30 seconds for my 10-year-old is not going to be the same, even though we both have ADHD. And 30 seconds is going to be even different from my 2-year-old.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
different, the strategy that works for me in this case is going to be possibly different from what works for them. But just knowing that we need to have a strategy in the first place, opens that conversation. If I didn't know I was looking for that, then
yeah,
I'm still
100%.
just rushing around like a crazy person.
Yeah, it lets you know what you're looking for. I think that's a really important thing. So, Sarah, if somebody was to, if we were to put a bow on this and kind of leave people with a bit of a positive thing, a strategy, something they can try, or at least some information about, something to take away, what would that be?
Offload it. Find a tool. Don't expect that you're just magically going to get good at time blindness, because that isn't a thing.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Find a tool, find a series of tools. Again, like I said, just message me system if you need to break those tools down, figure out which tools work for you. But it is
redundancy
a real
is okay.
thing. Yeah. Redundancy is okay. It is a real thing. And there's heaps of research to back that up. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody, for listening. I hope you've learned something. I hope you've had a wonderful day. We spent some time with you today, and we will see you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening, everyone. And a big thank you to Adam for making us sound great and Anastasia for making us look great. We couldn't do it without you.
And if you're looking for any of the references to the papers that we discuss, head on over to our show notes page because I always bring the receipts.
Plus, if you want to find out more about us or any more deep diving into what we're doing, you can find us on Substack. That's where the community is. That's where we're chatting. And you can see all of the fun and exciting things that we are bringing to the table.
Thanks for being here.